to our Board of County Commission meeting. We have, as always, the opportunity for a prayer, a reading, or a thought, and the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're looking to the audience to see if anybody would like to participate with us on that in the giving of that prayer, reading, or thought, and the Pledge of Allegiance. Are there any volunteers? Okay, seeing, oh, Bryce, which one? Got the prayer? Okay, come on up, Bryce, thank you.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity we have to meet here on this beautiful fall day. We're grateful for this process, to be able to come and be heard. We're grateful for the commissioners and for all those who serve our county and give up their time to try to make this a nice place to live. And again, we're grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy in this country. We're grateful for our military, for their selfless service on our behalf. And again, for the civic process and the chance to be heard and for our feelings to be expressed. And again, we're grateful for what we have and these things we say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the flag for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and thank you for participating with us in that. As we build our agenda, if at any time, if we come to that agenda item, if you'd like to comment on that, please just come up to the microphone and we'll recognize you and you can state your name and on the agenda item, be able to speak to that. And then any public comments we can hear that are other than the agenda items that we have on here will be at the end. So with that, we've got on our consent agenda, we've got 18 items on consent. I think we need to pull off 5, 6, 7, and 8 for findings. And I didn't have any others. Is there any others on consent that you'd like to pull off for discussion?
We would request number 2 to be pulled off just so we can make a presentation and have some discussion.
And 17 doesn't need to be pulled off. I just need to make a clarification. Kim Jackson brought to my attention. The document uploaded contains the entire balance. The only part being written off is in the 2008 year, the 23,105.7, because that's what's out of the statute. So it's only that portion. So if we can make that note.
Yes. Okay. Very good. You fine with that? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then a presentation on. I don't know if you bring it up, then we're going to have more discussion on it.
They have applied.
Okay. And then moving to our regular agenda for, we'll pull everything off the regular agenda and put on consent except for the ones that we will pull off for discussion. Item number 1, number 3, number 5, and number 6. We pulled off for discussion. Any others?
You got 5, right?
Yes.
Discuss, okay. I
Yes.
didn't have any additional.
Okay. Okay, any comments on those that we're now moving to consent? And the consent will be to approve, adopt, abate, or take action as stated on the agenda. All right, Sheriff, here's your chance.
Sheriff Tracy, I'd like to first ask Deputy Lawrenson and Police Service Dog Kilo to come up here also and join me. As it mentions in the agenda, we are requesting that the county find that Kilo has served 7 years, and that at this point in time, he is now at an age and medical condition where he cannot continue service. And we're asking that he be declared as surplus and then gifted to the handler, Deputy Lawrenson, who has trained this dog for the past 7 years. The issue becomes whether there's any monetary value or what is the value of the dog at this point in time. After his service career, there is no monetary value left in the dog when he cannot medically continue. If we were getting rid of the dog or moving the dog or transferring the dog somewhere else because he was still serviceable, that would be a different issue. But with the canine medical people who have worked with him through his career, they have determined that his physical conditioning and ability is now past serviceability. But I want to give you just a small snippet of what this dog has accomplished along with Deputy Lawrenson. He has served now from 2010 to April of 2017. Has been deployed 1,128 times. Police Service Dog Kilo has received the first patrol certification, level 1, from Utah and Post in 2010. And this is some of the work that he has done. PSD Kilo has been deployed on 192 criminal suspect searches as either the searching tool, a force multiplier, or as part of the arrest team. He has assisted in locating and the arresting of 101 individuals. He has been deployed on 400 plus narcotics sniffs, 438 to be exact, resulting in positive fines. This dog is a police service dog. His training has been extensive, and to be able to just send this dog off to some other place to be adopted by some family or other persons who do not understand the care and maintenance and the needs of this type of dog would incur liability. Deputy Lawrenson has stepped forward and gratefully to us, and hopefully for Kilo in his remaining days, be able to take refuge at the Lawrenson home and be well cared for until at such time as he passes away. So we would respectfully ask that Kilo be given the opportunity to retire and to be with Deputy Lawrenson, who he is absolutely adores and loves. And I think this is the best outcome for both the dog and the county. And we have done this in the past, and it's a tradition that we have tried to maintain based on the best interests of all concerned. Are there any questions or any comments?
Probably just a comment. And so I worked through that issue that you were
Right.
talking about. I think these dogs usually are about $30,000 or $40,000.
Well, they're $10,000 roughly to purchase initially, and then you've got time and effort in them. But those skills aren't transferable to another dog.
Right.
They reside within the individual, and at the time when they're medically unable to assist us anymore, the value of that training basically is expended. But with the type of work that you see, with the apprehension of individuals, many of whom who were violent criminals who were being tracked because of escapes or running from officers, we believe that the highest value that these dogs have is in the saving of lives, both the individuals who are the suspects or who are running from law enforcement with an apprehension before we get into an armed conflict, and also the effect of saving deputies' lives with the detection of somebody before that individual is up on top of the deputy and has a chance to injure one or both of them.
So to finish my statement on there, I know that there's value at the beginning, and then of course it goes down through, and just like pieces of equipment, if you want to put it that way
Sure.
too. I asked the question on a monetary basis. Where's that? What do we do if we don't gift this? And the answer was, well, then we usually put the dog down, or because of the liability factor that you have on there. And so I'm comfortable with allowing this to go forward, just because the other option is a zero option, and so I just wanted to state that I did go through that process and look at that because I
And I
didn't
think
want it
that's
to,
appropriate. You know.
to go the wrong direction.
Sure, there are monetary assets that are expended for these dogs. Their value is beyond discussion as far as I'm concerned in the public safety realm. These dogs that we have, I think we have about 9 of them in service, from everything from bomb sniffing dogs to a full police service dog that does apprehension, narcotics, and tracking, are of a huge value to the public and to us as a Deputy Sheriff's Association. At this time, I do have a plaque that I would like to present to Kilo and to Deputy Lawrenson, but I also like to ask Deputy Lawrenson if he has any words that he'd like to say. He could step forward and do that at this time.
Hadn't really planned on saying anything. I will say that it's been a pleasure to work Kilo. His very first find was a little over 2 pounds of narcotics, so he earned his name Kilo on the very first deployment. The numbers that Sheriff Tracy has read off were through April, and since that time, despite having a new dog, I've continued to take him out on the weekends when I'm not training the new dog, and his numbers have gone up. He's got over 1,200 deployments. He is up to 107 fugitive apprehensions now instead of 101, and we're just shy of 500 actual seizures of drugs from the street. I'm grateful for the county, for the Sheriff's Office in particular, for giving me the opportunity to to be a handler. He's my 5th dog, and I'm excited to take him home. And a little less excited for the lack of obedience he's already showing, as he's come to understand that he's retired. It used to be the only thing that he was supposed to do at home was not be on the couch, and he's decided that's no longer applicable. So, but despite his behavior and obedience level at this point, he has been outstanding in the field in the past. He has won me countless awards and a lot of notoriety from different organizations. We've been banned from different states from coming back due to the cleanup that we've done. And every time I show up, people shake their head and utter a curse and say, "Oh no, it's Kilo here again." So it's a good time to take him out of service. He's about 1.5 years ago, he was given 6 months to live. And he's obviously doing a lot better than dead. So I'm grateful for every day that he's still alive and still with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I present this plaque, I do want to also just represent that throughout the western United States, Kilo is known as one of the top dogs, if not the top dog, in many of the different competitions from Las Vegas to California to Utah. And that is no kidding. When we bring home all of the trophies from an event in every category, that's pretty impressive. So I'd like to present at this time this plaque to Kilo and to I just promoted you, to Deputy Brent Lawrenson for their service to Utah County and for the dedication that it took on both of their parts to be the team that they were. I'd like to have the commission come down if they would, please, just quickly,
okay.
and join us in the picture. Come on. Energetic. Hey, come on. Come on. He's only been instructed to fight one of you, but I'll leave that up to him.
I'm already been bit, so okay.
Thank you again.
Okay, let's finish the business part of it now. And a motion would be in order.
Move that we declare surplus service dog Kilo is transferring ownership as stated in number 2.
Second?
Got a motion and a second to declare the surplus, sounds terrible, but, as stated in number 2. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes 3-0. All right, on number 5 through 8, there's some findings that we should probably discuss and then, put in our motion as well. Go ahead, Rob, if you'd like to talk to those.
Sure,
Just
let me-
Should we do them one at a time?
Sure, let me just mention what they are. In about a year or two ago, maybe even a little bit longer than that, the legislature changed Utah Code 10-2-402, which prohibits islands and peninsulas being left as part of annexations. And the change to that code, which was significant for cities, was that if the county agrees to allow that to happen, it can happen. So in other words, a county, a city can agree to allow for the annexation, but leaving an island or a peninsula of unincorporated land nearby. So Saratoga Springs has approached Utah County, and I've sent that request as your backup. You see that, requesting that we do, in fact, agree to these 4. These 4 annexations, just so you know, were protested by Lehigh City, and they went to the Boundary Commission. The Boundary Commission determined that Saratoga Springs is where the property ought to go, at least at this time, but made a number of conditions on that. And one of the conditions is that the county, in fact, does approve this as an exception to the island peninsula issue. They are large swaths of land, at least some of them are, not every one of them. Johansson is a smaller one. Webb one is a little bit smaller as well. But so as far as findings go, the resolution provides what you need if you decide to do this. If you decide not to do this today, or decide to do it at all, excuse me, then I think effectively it kills the current annexations unless they decide to bring in the islands and peninsulas that might be remaining.
So I actually sat through,
I think you were there, yes.
I sat through the whole thing, saw both sides of it, and as I understand, and from looking down through the findings as well, and what I heard, these individuals wanted to be in Saratoga Springs. That's not the issue, and I understand that we're talking about the island part of this. And so I feel totally comfortable with moving forward with this and allowing them to go in the direction that they want. And so I just wanted to state that.
This land wasn't previously on any annexation declaration from Lehigh, though, was it?
Yes.
It was on both,
both of them.
actually.
Okay.
About the same time. That's the funny part
That's-
about this.
Yeah.
And at the Boundary Commission decision, I realize it's not before you today, but just for your information, basically, Lehigh and Saratoga Springs both wanted this land, both could provide services to this land. And so really what ended up happening is the Boundary Commission is like, okay, so both entities can do just a good job providing services to this property and have services really nearby. But they went with the property owner's perspective as to where should it go? Because the property owners, obviously in this situation, wanted to go to Saratoga Springs. And so that's what they went with, and there wasn't a lot else to go with. And just so I should say, the Boundary Commission, as far as I know, has not made a decision in this kind of facet since probably for the last 10 plus, maybe 15 years. We've had hearings before, but it's never gotten all the way to a decision like it did this time. So I think they did a good job of listening to all the evidence and presenting, that was presented to them, and from both Lehigh and Saratoga Springs and the public. And then they made their determination.
I think part of it, when I was listening to it too, was that the property owners wanted to potentially develop, and they felt like Saratoga Springs' land use was a little bit more lenient for them. I don't know if lenience, but it fit the models they were looking for, and so they.
Certainly Saratoga provided a higher density
Right.
than Lehigh was proposing at the time. So what's before you today is just your authorization or your consent, if you will, to the leaving of islands in the vicinity. There would be a couple of small islands, so that's really what you're looking at today.
Which we have done.
You have done this before. It's funny how things have changed, because back in the early to mid-2000s, we were doing the opposite approach to that. We were actually going after cities for leaving islands. Now, I think you're getting a large contingent of these islands that are getting annexed quite frequently, especially as the economy's picked up. And so I think we've kind of taken a different approach. Plus, the legislature took away some of our tools that we had in the early 2000s by some other amendments to the statutes. We used to be able to appeal on a decision on a 418, that's a different part of the statute, but for annexation islands, but now we don't really have the same ability. And as I mentioned a couple years ago, they now authorize the cities and counties to agree to leave these things. And we've been approached before, including by Saratoga Springs, and you have adopted those in the past.
What's the findings and conclusions that we would need to reach?
I'm not aware of any statutory findings, other than to say that, the resolution basically has what you need in it.
That we just accept the findings and conclusions as stated in the document. And probably with, the date's wrong, but we can change.
Oh,
we
I
can change
apologize,
that.
I didn't,
I think it says October 10th.
I may have originally had it on their plan of October 10th, I apologize. It should be the 24th. And there are 4 of them total.
Other discussion?
Nope.
Back up
Have any?
here. Okay,
Thank you, Rob. All right, I'll move that we adopt consent agenda item number 5 with the findings and a noted date change to the 24th of October.
Second.
we got a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as stated with the findings and the date change for item number 5. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Number 6.
I'll move that we adopt consent agenda item number 6 with the findings and the noted date change of October 24th.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as stated number 6 with the findings and date change. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes 3-0.
Move that we adopt consent agenda item number 7 with the findings as stated and the noted date change of October 24th.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as stated number 7 with the findings and the date change. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes 3-0.
I'll move that we adopt consent agenda item number 8 with the findings and the noted date change of October 24th.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as stated number 8 with the findings and the date change. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Okay. Now on to the regular agenda item number 1. And this is to take action to set a public hearing. And are there any questions on setting that, or if we should set that? Any concerns
for
with
me.
that?
Not for me.
Okay. We could take that action.
I'll move that we set a public hearing for the proposal of the Amber Rensselaer and Judy A. Humphreys trustee for French County Estates Planned Unit Development Plat B as noted in regular agenda item 1 for Tuesday, October 31st at 9 a.m. in this room at this location.
Second?
I've got a motion and a second to take action to set that public hearing as stated in number 1 on our regular agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Okay, number 3. Cammie, if you'd like to come up, this is to adopt a resolution. This was continued from last week regarding the regulations, human resource rules and regulations.
Good morning, my name's Cammie Taylor, I'm the HR director. We've made some amendments to the time tracking policy, specifically with the mobile time entry. We've specified that the comments, rather than just the work function and location, should include 3 points. 1, the physical location they're clocking in at. 2, the work they're conducting on behalf of the county. And 3, the name of the individual who provided the authorization. This will be checked against IP address that they use. So if they're here in this building, we have multiple IP addresses. If they clock in a mile away, their IP address is logged in Workday. So the comments that they put will allow us to compare against where they're clocking in and regulate that through the reporting and auditing process.
And then your recommendation on the very last part, I think this last sentence,
Audit
there was a couple of different options on there.
For the employees who do not enter required comments are subject to progressive discipline in
No,
accordance.
I wasn't thinking that one. I was
Oh.
thinking of the 3 different, I think you had like 3 different options that you presented to us on that change. Sorry, I'll have to pull it up to look at it.
The physical location they're clocking in at.
No,
Are you,
it's,
time entry section B, is that?
Yeah,
Commissioner, that was not sent to Cami, so she probably has not seen those options.
oh, okay.
So those were provided back to you. So basically, there are 3 options, the one that Cami has highlighted in her proposal, or the 2 that the county attorney's office sent to you as ways to address this issue between elected officials and non-elected officials. Any one of those 3, I think, would be fine. And then adding the time tracking piece to the mobile, I think that's fine too. So that's the part that Cami just mentioned today.
Yeah,
so.
okay.
So whichever you prefer.
Sorry, Cammy, I thought
That's,
that you
that's
said.
my, yeah, we did not, it was response to
No wonder
your-
why you're looking at me like, what?
Yeah, she did not have that. So.
So we've seen those 3. Is there any preference on what you'd like to see there?
I personally like the verbiage that's currently there that says appointed department head and the commission, and then, or their elected department head. I think
So the one that's Cammy stated, the one that Cammy was presenting on, that's you,
Yes.
yeah, I like it too. I like those changes.
Okay. It didn't matter, any 3 after we'd done some other changes were fine with me.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Motion would be in order then.
Move that we adopted resolution updating section 6 and 14 of the Utah County Human Resource Rules and Regs as stated in number 3.
Second?
We had a motion and a second to adopt the resolution as stated, number 3 with, I guess there wasn't any changes. With which draft are we going with here? With the
It'd be
final?
section
the
six.
The
number
one from
6?
section 6
Section
final.
six.
Section 6
final
final draft.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0.
So I'm not sure if section 14, the definition section that we specified last time, there wasn't a formal adoption of that with the changes that Rob recommended to the public and public safety. So we had section 6 and section 14. 14 was the definitions. I don't know if that's
Yeah, I think
included by
that was adopted.
incorporation,
Well, if we
or-
didn't, we did it today because we
Yeah, I was
we
gonna say
adopted
that.
6 and
Okay.
14.
Thank you.
It'll be in there.
Okay, number 5. Did you have some questions on that one too?
You're not Dennis Harris.
Yeah, so I had a few questions on it. Kind of the first question, this may be, I've read through it, want to make sure we have a complete understanding what it is. Could you just maybe explain a little bit more what the WTOC-TF is, its function? And then I have a follow-up question after you kind of just give the background there.
All right, thank you, Sheriff Tracy. Yes, what the WTOCF stands for is the Transnational Organized Crime Western Hemispherical Task Force. I guess if you're the federal government, you have to have a big name and then an acronym behind everything.
Right.
Basically, what this proposal is to enter into an agreement, an MOU, with the FBI to conduct the investigations on these transnational criminal organizations. Those are your cartels that are doing money laundering, those are the individuals who are doing human trafficking. These are the organizations that are just not lone wolves or individuals, but are cooperative and collaborative groups that exist within transnational, so within other nations that are bringing these crimes and committing these crimes in our area. The FBI has structured this very much along the same kind of structure that they have had other types of emphasis when they have, like the Safe Streets program and other programs that we have entered into before. Basically, what it does is it co-ops the FBI's resources along with our resources locally to make sure that we have the best collaborative effort to identify, arrest, and then prosecute, where Jeff comes in, either locally or federally, if that is appropriate, to take these individuals out of our community. So we have had other similar agreements with DEA, ATF, National Guard, along these same lines, where we end up using facilities and manpower and information between those groups to try to accomplish that ability to take these criminals out of the local community.
Okay. And follow-up question, just kind of, and I appreciate that explanation. I didn't notice anything in reading it, but I wanted your perspective. My concern is always making sure that you remain the local law enforcement official. Is there anything in here to where we could see some federal overreach or fingers getting in the door that would put your authority in jeopardy? Those are always my concerns when we come into these things. I just want to make sure we're protecting your ability to be the chief law enforcement officer of the county.
And that's always my concern too. No, this is an agreement that allows us to work collaboratively. There are some protocols that we must adopt as far as prosecution and as far as evidence, but they are of a high standard. They're not in conflict with, nor do they disagree with what we already do. So there is not a disparity there or an interaction that is not one reviewed and acceptable to me as far as how we conduct ourselves locally versus federally.
Those are my questions.
No, I have some. So along those lines, when you delineate responsibilities, are you not giving up some responsibilities as you delineate?
No, that's not the way we interpret it or the way it's been in functionality in the past. When we delineate, let's say, I can't go and just say, I need this case opened up to the FBI unless the FBI concurs. So they're looking at their parameters. So those are the kind of things where they delineate whether they accept a case. If they don't, we'll work it anyway at the local level. But just like some of the past drug cases, you had to have a certain threshold quantity before you could take it federally. And if that quantity wasn't met as a threshold, then it would be prosecuted locally. And so those are the kinds of determinations that are made at the FBI level on whether these cases go forward as a case that will be worked by this transnational group or just back onto our major crimes. Okay. And those are not additional people. Those are people that are selected out of the major crimes to not walk away from our facility or walk away from our work, but to include the work as it is discovered in our area that falls under this type of transnational criminal organization.
So you see this as enhancing your
Yes.
abilities. That's where I want to go. Is
Yes, that's correct.
enhancing your abilities to stop crime and.
That's correct. And co-op some of their resources that they have
And
where
use-
it's appropriate.
okay. All right. Jeff, on the prosecutor side, do you see any concerns that way?
No,
along
we don't
those
have
same
any
lines?
concerns. I will note that the agreement is not written in a form or manner that we particularly prefer. The reason is.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's kind of written as a generic form, and it's kind of pro-FBI, pro-federal government. But the reason it's done is because the federal government is doing this with hundreds of jurisdictions throughout the United States, probably even thousands. So they're unwilling to tweak certain things that bother us. But realistically, all this does is it allows the FBI, or allows our local officers to, again, like the sheriff said, access the resources of the FBI. If we ever have a point in either an investigation or a prosecution where there's a disagreement that we can't resolve, we're out, and it's not a big deal.
So what's an area that bothers you?
I don't have it in front of me, but is Court here? Maybe Court want to address some of the
I'm not so sure about the prosecution side, but from the civil side, when I looked at it, I didn't really have any major concerns.
It's nothing significant. Is we can't ever tweak it the way we exactly want it.
Let me add one thing, Sheriff Trace, again. As far as the responsibility and the definition of responsibility for actions on individuals, it's exactly the same as we have in our MOU with the Major Crimes Task Force. Each agency and entity is responsible for their own individual's actions.
Okay.
So that does not encumber us with something that they might do for liability, or nor are they encumbered for something that we might do for liability,
Yeah.
which is the way we prefer that.
Right.
Okay. Well, I just get the sense, you know, that we're concerned, our concern is that this is a tool that is helpful to you and it doesn't become a burdensome one which you have to follow, you know, unrealistic, especially if it's going across the entire United States as a generic thing. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily fit on a
That's
local
been my
level.
concern. Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, the local FBI office, they're very good to work with. We have a good relationship with them. And again, it doesn't tie our hands, it really
Yeah.
opens our ability to do more.
And again, like I said, if there is a concern, of course, this goes back to the board for approval, which was approved to go forward to the different entities from the Major Crimes Task Force Board. If at any time any of those individuals become concerned about anything, we bring it up to the board, we can break this agreement without it. There's no lead time or lag time, we just
Fair
say
enough.
we're done.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Unless there's any other questions?
Oh.
Motion to be in order?
Move that we authorize the commission chair to execute the MOU between the FBI and Utah County.
Second?
I got a motion and a second to,
Can I, just a clarifying question. It says Utah County, should it be Utah County Major Crimes Task Force?
No, this is
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
I think,
our portion of it, each other
R-
city
right.
has their own portion.
Motion stands then.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to authorize Commission Chair to execute the memorandum of understanding as stated number 5. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes 3-0. Okay, number 6 is to approve and authorize the Commission Chair to sign the decision on the Grandma appeal that was filed by Mark Allen. We heard that last week, wasn't it?
Yes,
Last
last
week.
Tuesday.
And so, Paul, if you can kind of walk us through that?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners. Paul Jones with the County Attorney's Office. My schedule last week was probably similar to Commissioner Graves' schedule. So last week, right after the hearing, I met with two
I
of you.
didn't see you at Disneyland.
Well, my schedule here at the county was similar to yours. So yes, we heard the grandma appeal, or you heard the grandma appeal last week, and I drafted this decision after speaking with the board separately and individually. Basically, walking through the decision, I try to state the facts that Mr. Allen had, or technically Karen McCoy requested certain assessment information for the mining claims up in American Fork Canyon. They were subsequently provided with a website link, or a link to a website which would provide that information. They were dissatisfied with that link. It was, they weren't able to get all the information that they wanted to from that link. Then they appealed to this board. Now, either the same day or the day after they appealed, Utah County provided them with a redacted set of assessment information.
You mean, not from last Tuesday when they filed the appeal?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we had the appeal hearing because even that redacted set didn't satisfy it didn't completely satisfy them. We had the appeal hearing, and then after the appeal hearing, Utah County supplemented their response with an unredacted set. But as I mentioned, that was after the appeal hearing. And so this decision here kind of goes through that scenario, and it indicates that the appeal is granted sort of on two grounds. The first ground being that since Utah County supplemented the response with the unredacted set of documents, the Board of Commissioners sort of would have to consider the appeal granted and satisfied. And secondly, because that redacted set of documents was not claimed to be classified as anything other than public, and it may have some information in there that may have been pertinent to the request, that they should have probably been provided those documents anyway. And so kind of on those two grounds, the appeal would be granted and considered at this point completely satisfied. Do you have any questions?
I just wanted to make a comment, as we had spoke earlier. I just wanted it to be on the record that, after the hearing was over with, that Utah County sent the unredacted documents to Mark Allen, which is appropriate, and I'm fine with that. And therefore, as I looked at the appeal, the appeal was easy to grant it because it was already done before we even had a chance to really have a decision on it. So therefore, I think that it is appropriate that we grant the appeal based on that the documents were given before we actually came to a final decision. But nevertheless, I just wanted to state that was.
And that
That
point
was how
is
it
sort
kind
of
of worked through.
That point is hopefully more clarified in the version 2 of the decision letter up on the agenda system just this morning.
Any other questions?
Nope.
No.
So I would be in favor of accepting version 2.
Yep.
Mhm.
I'll move then that we approve and authorize Commission Chair to sign the decision on the Graham appeal. Version 2 is uploaded this morning.
Second?
I've got a motion and a second to approve the authorization of the decision as in the documents for version number 2. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. All right. I think that's it. For the closed meetings, we don't need number 9 or number 10. And we'll need 11 and 12.
Motion to strike 9 and 10 from the agenda.
Second?
And a motion and a second to strike agenda item number 9 and number 10. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 2-0, 3-0. I was looking at 2.
I move that we approve and set a date, time, and location for a closed meeting to discuss the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual or individuals for today's date at this location following completion of regular agenda items.
Second?
I got a motion and a second to approve and set a date, time, and location as stated in number 11 on our agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0.
I move that we approve and set a date, time, and location for a closed meeting for a strategy session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation for today's date at this location following completion of regular agenda items.
Second?
Got a motion and a second to approve and set a date, time, and location as stated in number 12 on our agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. We have no work session. Are there any general public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into our closed meetings. Thank you.